That was weird. I've never had it tell me it couldn't go live before.
It's doing it now.
Yeah, it's going.
It says we're live now.
Okay, because it's still loading on my screen. So, hi, everybody that we're live. Just give me a second. I'm going to share this out, and then I'll give my guest here a proper introduction. But my phone's still loading. I don't know what's going on my end here. This is crazy. It's that full moon energy, raw. There we go.
Yeah, it just started raining
This,
right when we first started hooking up on Zoom. It started raining over here. It's thundering and lightning.
yeah. Well, yeah. Anybody that follows my channel will know this has been like the interview that we've been trying to have for almost a week now. And it's funny because we're going to talk about the full moon, that it ended up being on the actual full moon that we're going to do it. Okay. So when Ron and I first talked about doing this show, we wanted to do it on the full moon. Turned out the date we booked wasn't the actual full moon, but now it actually is. So we were just meant to do this show on the full moon.
Are you gonna do video or just audio?
Video.
All right, cool.
Just 1 second. I'm just posting this out on my Facebook. That's why I don't have a screen right now. And hold on. I am back. So get my chat set up here too. Sorry if anybody's watching yet. Wow, all of my tech is being really rough right now, so please bear with me. Okay, so I've got my chat open. I have my thing on. All right. Oh, I'm going to start recording.
I'll share.
Yeah.
It's live. I'll share it on my YouTube. Maybe we'll get some people in there for you.
All right. I'm going to cut my audio intro right now for you, though. Or are you ready to go? I can sit here for a few minutes too if you want.
We're good. I'm
Like if you
good.
want to share. Okay,
I just shared it. I just shared it for people.
sweet. Welcome everybody back to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. I'm really excited to have a friend of mine, and I actually consider him a friend now, back on the show for I think it's the second time on this one anyway. Him and I have done podcasts before together. So who I'm talking about, he is a plasma physics researcher, an intuitive, a podcast host, a creator of gem and copper energetic items, and a devoted father and husband. And like I said, it's a guy I'm proud to call a friend of mine, is Mr. Ra Castaldo. Thanks for joining us again, Ra. And I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation because we're going to get into some plasma physics about the solar storms, some full moon manifestation, and a whole bunch of stops in between. So I am just stoked about this.
Bro, thank you for having me on. I'm actually sharing the link again on my YouTube for everybody so they could join. I really appreciate you having me back on. Uh, it's
Yeah,
always a pleasure, bro. I can't wait to get in. And yo, and it's so weird because it worked out that we came out on the full moon, the super moon right now, and it's pouring rain, thundering and lightning. The plasma storms are happening right now too. So it goes perfect with the topic today. And we should, yeah, like we said earlier, we should definitely do this once a month for
yeah.
sure.
I I think near the end of the month or the moon stages, maybe we'll just book it for a particular day, but definitely because you and I even have some private conversations where we're like, damn, we probably should have shared this because when you get people that are of the same wavelength, sometimes you just information dump and you don't realize that it would be useful for a lot of the general public to hear some of the things that you and I have hashed out just in like a private phone call. Like, holy shit, the realizations that you've given me and my partner sometimes are just like, damn, that should have been on a podcast. So I think a once a month chat with you would be great, and great on the show and for the viewers.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think that's really good. It's taken me a long time to come to some of the realizations, and it's like research alone didn't give me some of the answers that I was looking for. I had to actually go out there and live my life and experience things, and then the universe starts speaking to you, right? Because like scholarship alone, thumbing through the books, isn't going to just give you the answers. You might be able to find some things in there, but usually through life experiences and through like your spiritual experiences and living your life and following the spiritual signs out there, then you're guided to look through the scriptures and look through the holy writings and see some of the answers that life showed you, and then you start to see things in a different way. And that's kind of what I realized, that we lost a lot of ancient knowledge about who we are, where we're going, and where we fit in nature and the universe. We lost a lot of that. And some of our past ancestors, they had that knowledge, and they were harnessing solar and stellar information and energies to be at one with the cosmos. And that's something that we need again before we're going to lose ourselves. And I think people feel the tenseness and the acceleration of things and the culmination of things. And I think we are at a crucial cusp in humanity and in the world and in our solar system. Is a lot of changes going on right now, and a lot of interesting alignments, and a lot of different energies where we can actually change things in a heartbeat right now, because there's a lot of explosive energies happening. So we'll get into that tonight.
Yeah, and just something you mentioned there about looking at the scriptures. I actually just had a new follower. Him and I were having a brief conversation, and he put something in perspective for me today, like how it's written in the Bible, Adam, Adam. And with our understanding of the construct of reality, that everything is molecules, he clued me in that it may not be atom, it may be atom, Atom, right? When they're talking about the creation of mankind, they are talking about atoms and molecules, not a person. And that alone was just, and it's something I've heard you touch on. Like, these aren't actual physical deities. These aren't what we can picture as a bipedal physical form a lot of the time. There's something astral or molecular. And that's what gets lost in translation a lot.
Yeah, well, I think the origins of many of the gods and deities originally have to do with cosmic, stellar, and solar phenomenon. But those that were harnessing those energies and deities, if you want to say, and communicating with the cosmos, they tended to take on those same names. So you had certain kings taking on names of their cosmic worship, right? Like when you have, say, Enki or Enlil, people, those are common, like popular names now ever since like the last decade or so, and Zachariah Sitchin kind of brought out a lot of stuff that people started making it more into light about. But Enki and Enlil have been, a name that people talked about in Sumerian and their deities, but in their origins have to do with the cosmic waters and the cosmic winds. And most origins of deities have to do with solar winds, solar storms, uh, you know, just cosmic waters, which ultimately is plasma, right? Just like when you have like Enki is the lord of the celestial abyss. So like they're literally talking about cosmic waters, solar waters, plasma waters, and he's paired with his brother Enlil. And Enlil
Yeah.
represents the wind. He's the cosmic wind. So there, those kings that might have been maybe harnessing those energies and using those names took on those same names, just like in Vedic. A lot of this knowledge all stems from Vedic cultures and ancient Sanskrit. And ancient Sanskrit, you have all these different names for sun gods, right? And they all take on different aspects of a star, right? So there's different aspects of a star. A star can bring sustenance. A star can bring destruction, right? A star can bring creation and evolution, right? And all these different things. And a star can bring sound. It brings light through sound. It brings fire, sacred fire. All these different ways of, communicating and harnessing the knowledge a sun sends, right? The information a sun sends. So it's to be like a star. And ultimately, these ancient sages were harnessing the knowledge of the stars, because we are made of all stars. We like our bones. We got all the things that we got: calcium in our bones. We got oxygen, hydro, all these different things in us. The same thing that's in stars, right? The same thing that's in suns. So we can literally, we have the same way that a star has emanations coming out of it, light streams, plasma. We have biophotons coming out of it, just like a sun is sending electrons and all of that, right? So we're very similar to a sun and star ourselves. So it's about aligning through mantra and hymns, these ancient Vedic and Sanskrit, even in the Bible. I mean, most of them are in hymn and mantra type form, verses, right? And originally, a
Yeah.
lot of these languages were meant to sing mantras and hymns, so you're aligning with the primal sounds of the universe, right? So Sanskrit was developed for this reason. It's made for mantra and solar yoga, right? So you can do hymns and mantras to communicate with the different levels of the sun. And you have all these
Yeah.
different names of the sun god. You have Surya, Savita, Adita, Mitra, Varuna, all these different ones, like Vishnu, Indra. There's all these different forms of the sun.
Um, just really quick, with something you've explained before, and I get that there's information in the solar winds and the solar rays. And what I wanted to ask is, like, do you think that's why mankind often tries to give these things physical forms? Because that's when the bulk of that information would have arrived on Earth. Like, what is identified as Enlil came as an information download, or the Earth received it, and the only way our minds could perceive it is as a god, right? Do you think that's what it was? Is that's when that information arrived in our existence or in mankind at the time's reality?
Of course, I can't speak on when this information arrived, or it's, I mean, it's thousands and thousands of years old, right? And what I think is that like, when you're seeing the ancient writings like the Vedas and in mantras and hymns, even most of the holy writings of all cultures, they're spiritual writings. Even a lot of the writings that we have of ancient Egypt, they're not meant for the everyday man. They're meant for spiritual initiates and adepts, right? So we were not meant to understand. The everyday man was not meant to understand the sacred knowledge that's veiled within the writings, right? So spiritual initiates and adepts of the ancient past, they were solar dynasties, right? We're talking about lineages of solar kings that had the ancient knowledges of the stars. Like, not only were they advanced in as warriors, but they were, you know, scientists, they were shaman, they were herbalists, they were all of these things in one, right? And they were ancient, highly advanced seers, right? A lot of them, they fought with mantras that could like shake the foundations of the earth, right? And things like that. Very psychic, powerful people. Like, we tend to bring aliens involved with a lot of the ancient structures and things like that, but there were powerful ancient people on this planet that existed way long ago. Things got annihilated many times. I mean, we have civilizations that we never even heard of before that were way powerful and way more advanced than we are now, right? So we lost a lot of this ancient knowledge, but some of the most ancient knowledge that we have is from the Rig Veda and from the Sanskrit, right? And they were talking about how not only are they talking about some of the advanced sciences, but they're talking the spiritual significance of the light, of the sun, of the streams of plasma that's coming from all suns and stars, that's forming a confluence of one big celestial ocean Akashic record of creation. And sentient life, as sentient life sends out their vibrations and their thoughts and their manifestations, all these different particles excite and cling together within the sentient plasma, and creation happens. And all these different particles, all these different things, they all have different name, which becomes mythology, right? So as the knowledge gets lost, the sacred adepts knew what these names, these forms meant, right? And the significance behind it. But as knowledge gets lost, it sort of becomes like mythology, and it becomes like nursery rhymes, sometimes degraded down to, right? When sacred things get passed down through oral tradition. And the way for people to remember things is they get very earthly names and attributes and stories, right? So this is how a lot of things end up, some of the sacred knowledge that was in mantra and hymn form ends up becoming like a mythology and stuff like that. But actually, it was holding very ancient secrets of nature and the universe. You
Yeah.
understand
You
what I'm trying to
actually
say?
Yeah, you actually just reminded me one where you said nursery rhymes. It was one Frank Castle told me, and it's one that went over my head until the day he said it. Was fee fi fo fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. It's
Yeah, I used to
actually a
talk about
nursery.
that years ago. Yeah, he got, I don't know if he got that from me, but I used to talk about that on my radio show a long time
Yeah,
ago with Gary Wayne. Well, that actually comes from stories of the real giants, I believe, from the ancient past, because if you think about that, he's saying like fee fi fo fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. So if a giant was so big, he would have super enhanced senses and
yeah,
smells and being able to even sniff out your blood and what kind of DNA you got. And wow, you're because think about a bear. A bear can smell a piece of chicken for miles, like far, far away, right? And they know what it is probably too as well. So certain animals have super compared to us, they have superhuman smells and capabilities. So if you made a huge human, you would have super enhanced smells where you would be able to sniff out something like that. It
yeah,
would make sense. It's pretty intense
yeah.
actually, you know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's what I actually think
Love that.
a lot of it comes from. And you have real giants in the Bible, races of giants. And you have races of giants all throughout Vedic history as well, and all over the planet. And some of them being the last of them, I think, being anywhere like these bloodlines between like 6 and 10 feet tall, the last of them. But some of them were rumored to be hundreds of feet tall at one time. I do find that very familiar. I'll tell you, I've had astral travels in my dreams, lucid dreams. I've had various different times where giants, like 200-foot tall type giants, popped up in my dreams. Like certain
Yeah,
times, like I fly a lot in my dreams, and there's certain times where I was flying, and below me was like a big giant, like a bridge-sized giant, like as tall as a bridge would be. And I'm flying over, and he took a swipe at me and stuff like that. Like he had like acromegaly type face too. He was a big, big, huge giant. And it's funny because like there's times where I'm flying in my dreams, and it's like right before I'm about to wake up, I'm actually getting tired in my dream from flying, and I feel like I'm not gonna make it, right? And it's weird. And I've been lost before and asked people directions, like, "Yo, do you know how to get the like?" So there's one time where I saw a big giant like that in my dream, like literally. When you have like one of those real psychic type dreams where it's so real that it wakes you
yeah,
up out of it, it gets so intense. It was real, and I was flying, literally flying, like Superman type shit. And
yeah.
I came to a part where I was like, yo, how do I was trying to get back to where I live in New York. And I was asking questions to people, right? And I came across this where there was a bridge. And I'm like, wait, how do I get to so and so in New York? I was asking, and there was a big giant below that I was asking. And he literally had like an acromegaly type face. And he was like squished face. And he was like 200 feet tall, dude. And he took a swipe at me. He was like, "Argh!" Took a swipe at me, and his swipe sent me the direction of where I had to be. He was like,
That's
he was,
cool.
it was crazy, dude. And I woke up
Uh,
like it was nuts.
Karen Holton actually calls those and cued me into this is transdimensional conscious experiences. It's like you're in a different stage of your conscious reality because this is just part of it. Like being a human is just part of what we're going to experience as a conscious existence, right? So I do think sometimes when we go to sleep in our physical forms here, you can just kind of slide over to a different version of what you're experiencing. It's kind of like peeking in the window of a different version of your reality, I think.
Yeah, and then various times I've seen them just sitting there like sad as well, like in the middle of the woods, like 200 foot tall on a rock,
Yeah,
or something like that. Something like that. I've seen him like looking down, like with his hands on his like this, or something.
yeah.
Some things like that. I've had that happen to me a few times, and so they exist on other planes of existence, uh, and at one time I believe they walked on this plane as well. But we can't fathom how old the Earth is and how many millions of times life probably has, so many millions of cultures and millions of people that we will never understand how many advanced cultures were here before, right? And like I
It,
said, we have Sanskrit, Vedic, and a lot of people think that is primitive mantras and hymns, and primitive forms of worship, when it's more advanced than people can realize. And this was a worldwide culture as well, a worldwide culture. And people don't realize every culture we have today that we think is ancient stems out of Vedic. Vedic was a culture that reappeared after catastrophes, and that's the oldest that we have right now. When you talk about Persians and you talk about Assyrians, when you talk about Egyptians, Phoenicians, Mitanni, the Elamites, the Hittites, the Amor, all these different cultures, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Aboriginals, the Native Americans, South America, all these different cultures, they're all stemming from Vedic, all of them. They all come from Aryan Vedic originally, right? They were Aryan cultures. That's because that was the oldest culture that we have that's surviving, right? And they were a bunch of priest warrior solar dynasties that came into this planet and ruled as gods. And at one time they were in harmony with nature and the universe. And there was like super, like you know like we're in a replicated reality of that now. Like we're using nuclear energy. They were using like a good version of that energy, right? Harnessing solar and stellar, powerful energy, free energy, right? And
yeah,
they were in harmony with nature. And it talks about it in the Rig Veda. Like these Asura Deva clans, at one time, they were in harmony. And they were in harmony with nature and the universe until they wanted to rule like gods over people. And they wanted to use some clans wanted to rule as gods and use this powers in the wrong way. And when that happened, it broke like cosmic law, right? And things started to wither and decay, and things started to break down in a different way. And it's not me making it up. It talks about it in almost every culture, so
yeah,
it, it's really incredible when you look to see the way that they're literally talking about sciences that we're only just starting to come on the cusp of today, and they're giving us the spiritual significance behind it, right? And right now we're having incredible things happening from our sun, and we're going to start realizing that the storms on our sun, all the light that's coming from our sun, different streams of plasma, that affects us in a spiritual way, a physical way, an energetic way. And the personalities that we have on our planet, the way we feel, all that stuff comes from the sun because we're absorbing the light, right? We're absorbing from the sun. Like everything that's coming from the sun, we're absorbing that, right? And we're like walking antennas. So the spinal current of who we are is connected to the cosmos, and we absorb the light that comes from our star, right? So as we absorb the light, we're absorbing information, right?
yeah.
So people got to understand that we're connected to everything that happens on the sun. And right now, the sun is having explosive things happening, right? You see, there's explosive things happening all over the planet, worldwide, earthquakes and volcanoes. This is all coming directly from the sun, right? We're having a solar purification right now on the planet, and we need it, right? And this is brought directly by the cosmic winds, the solar winds. And in Vedic, they call this the Vayu, right? It's the cosmic winds. And in Sumerian, Enlil is the cosmic winds. All right. And you even, gods like Baal that you hear of and all these different names, these are solar storm gods. They're all storm gods and originally sun gods. And they come in all different forms. Zeus, all these different cultures, Varuna, all these different cultures have different ways of tapping into that energy, and it also connects to our prana energy, our life force energy, you know. So wherever you want to go down, if you want to get into the different things with Vayu, the things like that, with the cosmic storms, with Rudra,
Um, before we get into that, do you want to talk about the full moon tonight, and then we'll get into the solar storms after? Because I think the full moon can be covered quicker. Like we've been talking about the energies and the manifestation and the old practices around this full moon. Like, do you want to give everybody the rundown on that?
well, right now we have the super full blue moon, right? And it's in Aquarius, right? And so it's about things changing and explosive things happening in an instant, right? So things can come out of nowhere and expand your wealth, expand your health, expand. You could just we're having a solar expansion right now. So it could expand in a negative way and it could expand in a positive way. And we had a various alignment. I don't know if people noticed, but I was just coming onto it naturally on August 14th. It's called the Guru Mangala Yoga alignment. And this is with Mars, Jupiter conjuncting and forming together. And this happened on August 14th. And this is about expansion. And it also has to do with the Capricorn Cancer axis. And that me and my daughter are Cancer Capricorn. And it was in the eye of Taurus, and my wife's a Taurus, so really powerful energies we were feeling. And I literally woke up in the middle of the night and walked outside, and I didn't even know this alignment was happening until after I saw it. I walked outside and I saw it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I saw Mars that right on top of Jupiter, almost looking as one. I put the video up on my YouTube. It was a powerful moment, man. I walked outside and I was like, oh my God, is that Mars and Jupiter? Because and I looked it up online. I was like, wow, it really was. And that special rare conjunction in Vedic astrology is called the Guru Mangala Yoga alignment. And that's about expansion. Jupiter's the about expansion, and the Mars Jupiter conjuncting as well. It's a really powerful moment. And I was getting all sorts of very special alignments that I wasn't aware of until after they happened all through the month of August so far. Even on August 8th, I was getting information coming to me about, you know, Garuda being a race of magnetospheres around the planet, around the planets, and about the Naga being the solar emissions and them going to war and all this. Really incredible information that happened on a special day of the Naga, and that they do like once a year they do like a special ritual for the Naga in Vedic. And I think people misunderstand what all of these sacred forces mean and sacred cosmic information. People want to think of them as actual snakes. When you see a hooded cobra, the golden hooded cobra, and many hooded cobras, these are coronal loops. These are a plasma and then the magnetic cords and lines that come out of the sun. When you have a coronal loop, they're twisting snakes, twisting magnetic field lines that form those loops. Those loops are coming right from the sun, from the solar deity. And Naga, they come from the celestial waters and they travel through the cosmic waters, right? So it's literally when you see a hooded cobra, that is the hooded coronal loop, right? And they travel through the cosmic waters towards the planets, information. And then the Garuda is talked about as being this golden winged eagle that circles around Earth and protects Earth from the Naga and even eats the Naga at times. So it's the information coming from the sun. The magnetic shield is the Garuda, right? And there's a race of Garudas. There's magnetic shields around all planets, right? They're solar beings. They're a solar race that protects planets with their wings. And the sun's wings is what forms them. So it wouldn't make sense to say it's the golden wings of Garuda, because the solar wind, the force of the sun's wings, is what shapes the magnetosphere, right? And the magnetosphere protects the planets from the solar emissions, right? But what's interesting is they also say that the Garuda and Naga, they come from the same thing. They're born from the same, right? So it's true. They are born from the same. They're both born from the sun. They both come from the solar wind, right? But Ganesha is eating the Naga at times as well. They're taking in the solar emissions that goes into the magnetotail and all the electrons and stuff, right? So it's a perfect description in a very interesting way, right? Incredible way. So when you see different Garudas, there are different magnetospheres around planets, and the Naga is all the information that's traveling from the sun, right? They're coming through the celestial waters. And we have a giant Garuda, the Jovian one of Jupiter. It's one of the biggest objects in our solar system is the Jovian magnetosphere, and that's the Jovian Garuda. And I was getting these revelations about all of this, while it was a very special time of the year for Garuda and Naga rituals. So it's very interesting.
Um, so I just kind of clear something up for myself. This is my own question. When you're saying like the magnetosphere stops certain information, I almost think that's a biological protection, because I think if humans understood everything that was going on in this universe, or we got all of the information at once, it would probably drive us nuts.
Well, yeah, it
Like,
protects us from cosmic radiation too, like it's there to
yeah,
protect us from so we can have life. Like Garuda, if a Garuda is shielding Earth, humanity, right? So that's why they sometimes
yeah,
picture him with a human head and an eagle body, because it's protecting humanity, it's protecting the planet, it's the solar wings of the sun as well. What forms that magnetosphere, what shapes it, is the ramming force of the solar wind, right? So it's formed by the solar wind and is also fighting the solar wind at the same time, right? So that would make sense that the Naga and Garuda are at war, right? And it even says that
yeah,
the Garuda is also eating the Naga at times, because it is eating the solar magnetic shield does take some in, right? It does pull in some of those snakes.
that makes sense.
I mean it's complete. I mean it's completely lines up with it. I mean, Garuda's talked about as he circles around Earth with his golden wings and protects Earth, right? He's eating the Naga, and they both come from they're a solar race, right? This is a solar beings that we're talking about here, and I mean, that's a very poetic way of talking about it, and it's talking about the spiritual significance as well, right? So yeah, it's really interesting when you start to realize this, because um the Vedic, all the ancient cultures, they all have sacred fire rituals, right? Where you do a sacred fire ritual to call down fire from the sky. Even Elijah in the Bible brought down fire from the sky from doing a ritual, right? And this
Yeah,
is needs to be looked at in a different way, because this is like literally talking about bringing solar storms, right? Doing chants and mantras to tap into the primal sounds of the universe, where you can actually bring solar storms and things like that, right? And there's goddesses that were able to do this. Inanna had the Melamu headdress, where she was literally bringing this, and Inanna is the sun as well. These are not people. These are cosmic and stellar solar beings, like intelligences, right? Even with Rudra's a form of the cosmic wind of Vayu, and Rudra's the howler. He's the expansion of the sound of the light that comes from the sun. He brings the solar plasma storm, the howling sound of the sun, right? And this is all eloquent ways of talking about different attributes of the star, of the sun, right? And Vedic religion is a religion of sun and light. It's based on solar symbolism. It's based on being a religion of light and the sun, and most religions are, right? Most religions, they're the sons of the sun or the children of the sun, right? That's most religions come from that. And
Yeah.
the sun is the supreme deity of all of the Vedas, right? And it's the divine power in heaven, and it has the celestial ocean, which is ultimately sentient plasma. And it brings the lightning, it brings the everything comes from all the information. And you have all these different intelligences, like Rudra is the howler of plasma solar storms, but he creates certain deities as well, like the Maruts, and but they're different intelligences within the plasma that are making things happen, making things create, like the dawn maidens and the solar nymphs and the water nymphs. This is all intelligences that dive into lightning storms. They congregate and make things happen and bring information into the planet, right? And we can't even fathom what they really are. Like Garuda is a race of solar shields and magnetospheres around planets.
We'll get into Rudra, but can you explain the types of lightning too? Because I heard you talk about this before, and I thought it was just fascinating. Like when you broke down the types of lightning that come into our existence. Like,
Yeah, well, that's with Vayu, you have different forms of Vayu that brings it as well, right? So, and they talk about the different energies and power. Like Vayu, that name itself is about expansion, right? And vibration and cosmic energies. And then they have Vata in Vedic, right? Vata is about the cosmic life force, right? And nature as being a part of the cosmic life force. And then they have Vidyut, which is the lightning or the electrical energy of Vayu, right? And they have the Maruts, which is the vibrations of the lightning, right? And they have Rudra, which is the power to create the sound, right? And then they have uh Parjanya, which is the power of storms and rains, and this is all coming from the cosmic winds, right? Yeah, they have all different types of lightning, right? And you know, you have solar lightning, you have lightning in our atmosphere, you know, you have we have lightning that comes from literally comes within us as well, right? And yeah, I mean, we have all sorts of groups in Vedic astrology, and you have the nakshatra, which is the language of the stars, the 28 lunar mansions. You have all these different, forms of communicating and harnessing knowledge from the stars and tapping into the knowledge of the stars. And once you start to realize where you fit in nature and the universe, then the universe starts revealing to you some of the answers that you're looking for. You're not just just because you have an interest in something, you're not just gonna get the answers to it. That I was wrong for many, many years about a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, right? But as you find your place in it and where you fit in everything, and you understand how, like, where your place is, then things start to become more clearer to you. You know, we're in a very
yeah,
swampy realm, and unfortunately, people they're mostly wrong with things, but it's it's not about being wrong. It's like you have to be wrong to find your way to the truth. You got to be to get something right, you got to be wrong a million times, you know? So usually if you're going to be knowledgeable or have wisdom about something, you have to go to battle for it, right? And that's
yeah,
how it is with the Vedic mantras and hymns. They're literally communicating with the sun, communicating with the stars, and they're calling out what nature and the earth and humanity needs to be in tune with their environment and everything. And that we've lost that. We've lost that, right? And now all we're calling out for is greed and materialism and things like that. So we're being evolved according to that, right?
yeah.
So it's not about
Um,
what the collective consciousness needs anymore and what Earth needs as a whole, right? It's about what I need and what I want and what I need to feel. Even the way we look at death now, everybody's like, oh, when we die, my ancestors are going to be around me forever and I'm going to get all the answers I've ever wanted. That's a very ego-driven, please me now. My life's over now. I want to see everybody I miss. and we're just going to be partying forever. But that's a purgatory, right? That's you're just stuck nowhere. You're not spiritually evolving. You're just you're just partying with Sammy Davis Jr. or whatever, sitting there chilling out, right, with your ancestors. You're not
Yeah,
progressing spiritually. You're not moving on, obviously. You're just sitting there at a certain level, and that's a trap, in my opinion. That's you're being deceived by the light, right? There's various forms of light that we have to travel through as a soul, as a being, right? As our magnetic duplicate, right? The magnetic duplicate of who we are is made up of all the compositions of a star as well, right? So when we go back into the plasma waters, right, we go into different versions of the light with our soul. And mostly when people die, they're connected to this realm and light from this realm, right? And they're communicating with that light, and they want to see things that they're this from this like things that they miss, things that they want, things that it's all about their shit that they caked on their ego and around their souls, right? And it really doesn't have to do with that. We have to go back into the collective if we want to evolve and move on, right? And unfortunately, people they want to at the moment of death, they want to sit there and all of a sudden meet all the people that they missed and all of this. And I think that's really a wrong way to think of it. That's really not progressing, in my opinion. That's not like a heaven to me. That's a purgatory. Purgatory.
yeah,
For me to heaven is to have a harmonic evolution where you're progressing into a higher state, right? If you're just going to be sitting there hanging out with everybody that you knew in life, what is that?
yeah. No, and I
Does that
totally
sound like
agree because
heaven to you? That
no,
doesn't sound like
I
heaven
I
to me.
actually I had actually heard somebody explain this. Like, there's the light, and exactly what you're talking about. There's your family and your friends and your dogs and your cat and your fish. That all of that.
Well, in Tibet,
But if you,
in Tibetan Buddhism, they have the Bardo realms, right? That's
yeah,
similar to what I was saying. Like if it's deceiving light.
yeah, if you turn around at that moment, you'll see what's actually behind you in your picture. It's the whole rest of the universe. It's every experience that we could ever have. So yeah, you're putting yourself in a bowl if you think that your attachments here is all you're ever going to experience, and that's what you get when you leave here. Because there is so much more beyond our conceptions and our
I've actually
conscious.
said that line before when you turn around and I've actually said that. I know exactly what you mean because they talk about it in Tibetan Buddhism, like they call it the Bardo realms, where you have to go like you can get deceived by the light. So like if say for example, what the Bardo realms are, I'll break it down just real quick. Say there's all these different color of lights that can emerge after death, and say you were I don't know if I have the colors right, but I'm just paraphrasing. Say you were a glutton in life. Then when you die, you might see like these alluring yellow lights. And because you were a glutton in life, that you're gonna these alluring yellow lights, you're gonna be like, wow, this is heaven. Like these are these beautiful lights. You're gonna be like lured towards these lights. And then when you go into that light, because you've been a glutton in life, that will like bring you to the realm of the hungry ghosts, where you're gonna be like forever wanting for things until you learn, you incinerate that off of your soul, right? Or say you were always looking down on people. Well, then maybe you're going to see these alluring blue lights, and it's gonna bring you to the realm of the giants, and you're going to forever be like being stalked like giants because you were always looking down on people, and things like that, right? So you'll see these alluring lights that will teach you lessons about things that you didn't like do right that you were flawed in, right? So that's called the Bardo realms in Tibetan Buddhism, and I understand that, and I think that's kind of what goes on with the ancestors, because you have an idea of what you think your afterlife is going to be or what you want, but it's not about what you want. And just because people think that all because they're going to die, that all of a sudden now they're going to be able to chill out and that there's going to be no more work. That's the work is just starting now because you died. You just if you were an asshole in life, you're gonna be an asshole in death still. Like you still got work to do. You don't think you're just gonna be an asshole for 70 and 80 years and then you die and everything is cool and you could just let that be? Nah, you're gonna get stalked by cosmic nightmares if you don't have the right path through the light. And we lost the coordinates of the afterlife. In the past, these cultures, Don, these cultures, their whole deal was about guiding and the transmigration of souls. Like the Vedic culture, ancient Egyptian, the Orpheus mysteries and the Thracian and Samothrace civilization, all these cultures, ancient cultures, Japanese, Chinese, I mean, Native Americans, all this Christianity, uh, Judaism, Muslim, all these cultures is about afterlife and the travel and what like going it's all about the travel of souls and there it's all about death, right? It's all about what happens when you die and we've lost the true coordinates and how to guide souls through the afterlife. And the sacred initiates and spiritual initiates and adepts, they knew the path of souls. They guided souls at the moment of death to certain regions through the magnetosphere into the plasma waters so they can evolve into stars and immortalize themselves. And they went to war over this knowledge. Actually, they were fighting over the rays of light in the Vedic, in the Vedas. If you look at what the Asura Deva, the ancient famous Vedic war was that split up all these clans, the reason why we had an Aryan, not invasion, but an Aryan division, I would call it, and all these Aryan cultures spread out all over the world, right? The reason why that happened is that they fought over what they called the sacred cows. The sacred cows is the rays of light, right? So the Asura and Deva clans, they fought over the rays of light because they wanted to harness those rays of light to extend the light to achieve immortality, right? So they were looking to find a way to achieve immortality by becoming an immortalized star and sun. And we actually have stars and suns doing this right now in the center of our Milky Way galaxy and probably many other places, right? They're called either the S class or S series of stars, right? And they're new ones forming all the time now. And this is literally what the Vedic War was about. They wanted to harness the light, to extend the light, to achieve immortality by drinking the elixir of the cosmic waters. They wanted to drink because when you birth new stars, that's like an explosion of plasma. It's an explosion of cosmic waters, right? It's the Amrita, it's the Soma, it's the immortality elixir of the gods. Is the birth of is becoming a new star, the birth of the waters, right? Well, there's stars that are close to our center of our Milky Way right now, and scientists, astrophysicists, astronomers, they can't really understand why these stars are so unusually young and so very massive and doing certain things that they're doing. So they're saying that possibly they're uh they're consuming some sort of dark matter or dark energy, some sort of as an energy source to make them like to sustain their luminosity indefinitely, right? So they can become immortal. And you have these stars. They're called, I think, the S cluster of stars or S series of stars. And they're right in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And they actually found 5 new ones a couple of years ago too. And they're saying some people think that they're sustaining their energy by consuming dark matter, and that's how they're explaining their character. But I think they're consuming a form of exotic plasma that they're calling just they talk about this in the Vedas. Like when you push matter into creation through sound and light. I mean, this is all about through mantra and prayer. And they do all this in the Vedas. And I think that ancient Vedic kings, Asura Deva kings, they were harnessing some sort of plasma cosmic waters to become new stars. And it's possibly this is happening by pulling the galaxies together. So we have the Milky Way galaxy and the Andromeda galaxy literally being pulled together, right? And when you pull galaxies together and they start rubbing together and merging, new stars form from that merge, from that collision, right? That births new stars. And I actually think they're describing this in one of the famous tales of the Hindu. It's called the churning of the ocean with Vasuki, the Naga Vasuki, when they're churning the ocean. And I think that they're literally describing the churning of two galaxies, the Milky Way and the Andromeda galaxy, and then being pulled together by the demons and the gods, the asuras and and then the Amrita immortality elixir arises from that, the new stars. And they even talk about how I think it's Shiva or Krishna, whoever it is in the story, he swallows in his neck the blue stardust. And in the center of the Andromeda galaxy, they have a blue ring of stars right there. Incredible. So I actually think that's what they're describing because we haven't they have a interesting core of the Andromeda galaxy. There's like a blue ring of stars in the core of them as well. I think these are ancient Vedic Nephilim kings that have evolved into these immortal stars, right? They had the knowledge, they were fighting over this knowledge.
You you just kind of had me thinking there about like matter and antimatter rubbing against each other to create something. When I was visualizing that, it's like I actually get this on a molecular level. Like I can figure it out. And this is kind of a weird thing to talk about, but you've touched on it before. Like you sometimes you get more knowledge out of life than you do out of a book, and there's always some type of payment for it. And something you and I have in common is NDEs. And I don't have any other explanation for my understanding of a lot of this than other than gifted intelligence. I've also had about 9 NDEs. I think I was literally like put through the paces until I got it and was mature enough to handle the stuff that I'm able to figure out now. So, like, I'd love to. You've phrased it before about you have to pay for certain knowledges, and I'd love to hear your explanation on that one.
My explanation on what was the question again?
How you're okay. You had mentioned before how you have to basically pay to understand certain things. There, for
Oh
ancient
yeah,
knowledge, there's always
yeah, for
a
sure.
payment. Right? For me, it's dying multiple times, even in this existence. Like that goes back to an older concept of you basically have to earn this knowledge. And I
Yeah,
just,
bro, for sure. Yeah, I get what you're saying now. So
yeah,
I call for my own path. I call it like I'm the wounded healer, right? Like I had to be run through the ringer and go through a lot of different things to realize that I have the power within myself to heal myself, to connect to the universe. You don't need a middleman. You don't need to channel some sort of angel or whatever. Like you have that information within you. You are a walking, you know, you're a walking instrument of God yourself, right? And we literally have all the particles as a sun and star. We're aligned with the universe. We just have a lot of sludge around who we are and around this dimension and reality, right? So if you're able to navigate yourself through the sludge or chip away some of that sludge around you, you start to get some of the light trickling in at the right angle, right? We're all receiving the light at an angle coming in. And when light comes in at a certain angle, it forms helixes as well, right? So light, it's very important to receive the light at just the right angle. And we are receiving the light at just the right angle. We're very special people. We're very special creatures, right? And we've lost our place. So the frequency is a very asuric frequency. It's about greed, materialism, keeping people drug addicted, right? All of this. So when someone is trying to arise this realm and bring this realm out of the sludge, right? There are going to be a lot of obstacles that gets put in your way because we're currently in a reality that is completely against that, right? So we're literally like roses trying to emerge and catch the light in the middle of a dark swamp, right? That's what's happening. And there's a lot of these roses that are emerging right now. And we're part of these. That's why also the rose is used a lot of times, in symbolism. Rose is has a lot to do with the light, a lot to do with symbolizing pure light. And the cosmos is very chaotic place, but yet we have this beautiful life here, right? Think about that. I think human life and the human planet is a lot more rare than people give it credit for. And there's only certain Earth planets like that within in the universe, right? There's only certain Earth-like planets like that in the universe, and it's a lot more rare than people realize. This is a planet of prayer. This is a planet of thought. This is a planet of mantra and song. And that's what it's supposed to be at. It's a planet of calling out and thought and manifestation, right? But we've only been manifesting for, greed and materialism. So if you want real cosmic truth to bring us back to one in the universe, bro, you're going to have to go to war. You're going to have to pay for it in ways that you couldn't even imagine, right? You're going to get, because they're going to want you to quit. The energies are going to want you to quit. The Asuric current of energy is going to want you to quit. It's going to make you want to quit, right? And when you quit, you lose, you go back many, many steps. But if you keep going, bro, you push through all that, the wisdom that you get on the other side is unimaginable, right? It's unimaginable. So that's why it doesn't matter about money. It doesn't matter about materialistic things. I know we all need that to survive, but like wisdom is way more expensive than materialistic things, right? Materialistic things the universe will give you like that. All you got to do is pray for it. Ask him for it. There's a lot of darkness out there that's waiting to scoop you up. Oh, you want to offer up part of your soul and your energy for some materialistic shit? Come on, take it. We got all that for you all day long. Give me a little piece of yourself. You want to call out and give a little piece of your vibration just so you can have some more riches? Fine, give me all of your soul energy for that. We got that for you all day. All right. When was the last time someone prayed for the good of the collective consciousness and for them to be more wisdom or be an instrument of God to help people?
Yeah.
When was the last? That's what you should be praying for. That's what you should be thinking about. That's what you should be manifesting yourself to be more, have more wisdom, have more strength, right? So you could find your place and you can help others, right? I mean, the giving yourself more goods is only going to benefit you for temporarily, right? Filling yourself up with more wisdom, being an instrument of the light is way more powerful. Way more powerful, because you know what? You can, if you have wisdom, you can lose all of your money. You can go anywhere you go in the world and somehow you're going to find your way. Somehow you're going to be able to make it. But if you were a spoiled brat and a rich kid and then you lose all your money, see how hard it is for you to find your way through the world when you've been pampered your whole life, right? When you
Yeah.
just have goods and riches, you don't have much wisdom. You have to go through some chaos in life to learn some wisdom. And that's the way this world works and this reality works, right? We have to go through some deep shit sometimes to learn who we really are.
I think you really nailed it there too. Like, even as a collective, we can manifest a better reality if enough of us ask for it for the collective. Like, you change that vibrational frequency that is our reality just with emotional frequency would change this reality if a lot of people stepped it up on what they tried to manifest. Exactly what you said. If we stopped intending to just be of self and started thinking on a selfless level for all of us, it would fucking change a lot of things here
Dude,
and not
we manifested
realize
this ourselves. Humanity manifested this ourselves. It is a harmony. If I could tell you one thing, I don't think I have all the answers because I don't. One thing I can tell you,
no.
I feel like I'm right about is that there is a harmony of spheres, and all spheres are connected in a way that I've talked about before on your show. Like all knowledge and wisdom is out amongst the stars, and different suns, they channel in energies, right? And as energies get channeled to the planets, like when the sun has light information coming from the sun, right? The sun is going to receive information from that other suns and stars as well, right? And as it brings in different personalities of, as you know, alignments happen. Every sun and star out there has its own characteristics and personalities and attributes, right? So each sun and star has streams of plasma, light, intelligence coming from it, right? All those streams are like rivers. They form one big celestial ocean where they're all communicating with each other. And all the suns, they also have planets, most of them around them, right? Where they're feeding their planets with information to create, sustain life, evolve life, all these, and it's sending the light to what each individual planet needs, right? When you have life on planet, the planet's calling out, hey, we need this, and the light is sending that information to it, right? And when we have vibrations and thoughts coming out, those are our emanations. So as the sun sends emanations out, the sun is going to alter. The sun is receiving emanations from other suns and stars as well, right? Then the sun receives those emanations, it alters those emanations with its own vibration, and then it sends its emanations out. And us on the planet, so we receive the emanations from the sun, and then we alter it with our own vibration, and we send our emanations back out, all our thoughts and prayers and what we want to be, what we want, all of that stuff, what our soul is calling for. That's all absorbed by the light, absorbed by the moonlight, absorbed by the sunlight, and it pulls it back into it. And then it alters it by its own vibration again, and then sends it back out. It's all recycling energy going into each other. So yes, our vibrations, our emanations are absorbed by the moon. The moon sends it to the sun. The sun sends that back out upon us and evolves us according to what we send out. Right? It's a harmony of spheres. And it's all connected. It's one confluence of Akashic record, celestial ocean. Right? When you have Edgar Casey talking about an Akashic record, he's talking about the plasma ocean, the celestial ocean. And this is talked about in all mythologies. Right? You have a celestial ocean that they talk about, right? And this is where we have to go in the afterlife. And they were chanting mantras, guiding souls. They even talk about you have to go towards the North Pole, right? Through the gateway in the magnetosphere and merge with the cold water within the magnetosphere. They're talking about the cold plasma in the magnetotail area and all that. Like there's a certain region they're guiding souls to where you can literally call other particles within the plasma ocean to yourself. Call supernova explosion particles. You can merge with stars. You can become a new star yourself and harness it would make sense for these ancient kings, solar kings, if they're transforming to stars after death, that they would go to the center of the Milky Way galaxy, because if you're harnessing, energy from the super massive black hole, that's like the powerful thing in the universe. You can harness energy maybe from the black hole, and that's what's creating this immortality stars that we have at these S class of stars, or S cluster stars. Yeah, it's pretty intense. If you should look that up, the S cluster of stars, because they can't even explain how they're doing that in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. Cannibalistic stars.
Just a question I want to ask before, because I really want to do. We're going to have our second hour here in a second, but I want to hit Rudra really good and have that explained. But one question on my own again. Do you think all of the plasma solar storms that we're experiencing right now are related to the uptick in the auroras that everybody's been seeing around the whole world? Like there is just an unheard of amount of aurora borealis or aurora being seen at places in the world that it's never been seen before. Is that related to the plasmic solar storms, or is that something different?
No, that's what brings them. Yeah, that's what brings. When you see like coronal mass ejections, solar flares, though, that's what brings the solar the auroras, right? So auroras, they come through the magnetotail, and it's a chaotic region that stretches out on the night side, right? And you can look at that as Vritra, the Naga, or the dragon who lays down, right? That Indra fights Vitra and releases the waters, or Tiamat and Marduk, right? This is the dragon that coils around Earth and then lays down at night on the night side, and it takes in all of that, those solar emissions, like a lot of the cosmic radiation, and it gets all chaotic in there, and it injects them at the poles, and that's what comes out in auroras and places that there's breakthroughs in the magnetosphere, like, and stuff like that. So all that, it's like a dragon, bursting, in inside of it. It stretches out like a comet's tail, actually, on the night side, and that's the magnetotail, and that's where all the auroras come from. It comes right from the solar storms, right from the sun, right? It's music coming from the sun, literally. And when the music comes in, it's called an electron-driven chorus, right? And it's coming through the plasma waves. And this is what the birds broadcast, and even the dolphins and whales, they're broadcasting this electron-driven chorus. And I was shown this, telepathically. So when you have the birds, they're broadcasting the what's going on in the magnetic field around Earth, the magnetosphere, right? And they have magnetite with them and all that shit. And you have the electron driven chorus, and that electron driven chorus is also being sensed by whales and dolphins, and whales broadcast that. And this generates a certain frequency that opens up the plant cells stomata, that makes them receive the light and grow and be prosperous. And the same thing with the life in the sea. The whales and the dolphins, they're broadcasting this electron-driven chorus of the sun that's opening up the plants and the algae and everything that lives in the sea. It's stabilizing and harmonizing them with the light that's coming in from the sun, the music that's coming from the sun. Yeah, it's very, very important that people realize that sunstorms, they're sending charged particles, right? That it's an electron-driven chorus that's inside the plasma waves. And at dawn, at dusk, these auroras, they're chirping the bird song, right? It's a frequency that opens up these plant cells and makes them flourish and grow. And the chirping is the same sounds that birds make when, right before, an hour before dawn, right? And
Yeah,
they only make that sound once, that only time of the day. And it's the same sound that's coming in the magnetosphere. And certain birds, even that's used in mythology about it, make those specific sounds as well, like starlings, the hoopoe bird, the cuckoo bird, um, the woodpecker. These birds are used in mythologies with solar symbolisms and sun and the harmonics of the universe. I mean, there's a Greek play that's called Nephelakagia, right? Nephelakagia. It's a Greek play, and it talks about the woodpecker, the hoopoe, and the cuckoo bird, and they have to build this cosmic wall around Earth to protect Earth, and they're employed by the gods. I mean, it's incredible solar symbolism, and we're constantly being bombarded by radiation and solar wind, right? And this brings very strange auroras and chorus waves that occur when there's energetic electrons that become trapped in planetary magnetospheres, Garudas, right? And the Garudas broadcast that music, and they're spiraling literally along the magnetic field lines, and they generate in the waves in the plasma. And these waves, they can be recorded and converted into sounds. And it depends on how and where the electrons are moving, but it's an electron driven chorus. And when you have magnetized planet environments like we do, they're literally shaped by the solar wind, and their interaction with stellar winds brings music. It brings sound. There's the sound of the light. That's why I use that quote on my podcast, my Space Water podcast. Dive into the sound of the light, the Space Water podcast, because that's what you're doing. You're diving into the sound of the light. And you can even, if you don't believe me, go look up the research on electron-driven chorus in Nature Astronomy. It's been published in there about the plasma waves, and it's making the sound of the same sound birds make, right? And there's certain places, I might have mentioned it on your show last time. There's certain stone circles that are communicating with the magnetic field around Earth, around. And the stones are literally channeling energies and information on specific times of the year. They're opening up doorways and bridges of light from the sun right to that spot. Right. That's why on Newgrange in Ireland you have a doorway of light coming right through the stone site just on that one on winter solstice morning, and you have solar archaeoastronomy alignments on one time of the year on certain sites. Callanish in Ireland, in Scotland is one place where there's a breakthrough in the magnetosphere. There's auroras there, and they have mythology about the wood, the call of the cuckoo's bird that comes. The shining one walks up the avenue of stone, heralded by the cuckoo's call. I mean, this is plasma physics. They're talking about the electron-driven chorus and the music that's
Yeah,
coming from the sun and how the stone site is opening up that chorus and broadcasting it. It's incredible. But yeah, there's all sorts of new groundbreaking translations that we are just coming upon today, and a lot of people are saying it in their own way. But and there's a lot of stuff that you need to discern through out there that is, that is not right. There's a lot of false prophets out there. But yeah, we have incredible information that's within mythology and within plasma physics, and we need to merge those two. We need to merge spirituality and sciences once again, so we can realize the spiritual significance behind the sun, the stars, and how they affect our bodies and they affect who we are. Right? It's just like it goes hand in hand, spirituality and science. When you see an astrophysicist, he's also a metaphysicist, right? When you like, they're also like metaphysicists as well. So they just don't maybe call themselves that, but yeah, there it's very similar. Riley Rage, what's up? He's in your chat room. Riley Rage is out there. She's out there.
that
My wife's in.
that's something that you have mentioned before, and I actually written in my notes is the separation of spirituality and science. Like those things were pulled apart for a very specific reason, so we couldn't figure out how to do a lot of this stuff for ourselves, or at least it would take us a longer time to figure it out.
For sure. For
Yeah,
sure. And
like
we've had worldwide
a lot of
cataclysms and shit.
yeah.
They say in Vedic and Hindu, one day of Brahma is 4,322,000,000 years. So, and one night of
Wow.
Brahma is that long as well. So I think we're at the end of a day of Brahma. We're about to it's about to be the end of a and the rise of a new. And this is what's
Yeah,
going on. And the sun is bringing us a purification right now. And I really think by 2025 we're going to be at peak solar storm moment, and it's going to eliminate the technologies that we have now. That's destroying our planet. Nuclear technologies, the internet, things like that. It might be destroyed in 2025. There's a high chance of this happening. You know, it's being accelerated. I know certain people like Rudolf Steiner and things like that. They said it would be like by the year 2400 we'd be coming to a new age. I think it's coming a lot sooner.
this actually alludes to something you and me and Spinja have touched on is natural abilities that have been muted and will likely come back if technology disappeared. Like you, me, and Spinja were involved in something pretty funny the other day. She pretended to like Sesame Street, bring phone you, and basically within minutes of the time that she had alluded to, you actually phoned us here,
Yeah.
and we were like laughing our asses off because you knew that we wanted to talk to you, and it involved no technology.
No, I
These are
can
naturally abilities.
I could sense really things with a lot of people like that, you know, and just like what you're saying with the lightning before too. I forgot the like a couple of things I wanted to bring up before we go on because that leads to Rudra as well. Like the Rig Veda, they
Yep.
have three different types of lightning as well. And you know, they and the Vedic seers, the solar seers, they saw lightning as the result of an ongoing battle and tussle between heavenly deities and seers, right? So they're looking at it like as literally a battle between plasma intelligences. You can look at it like that, right? So, and NASA has even found proof of orbs of plasma congregating and diving into lightning storms into our planet, like intelligent orbs, intelligent plasma orbs, orbs of light, purplish, reddish, white, in space, in our atmosphere, all over, diving into lightning storms and entering into our planet in through solar storms and stuff like that, congregating groups of them and forming in formation and things like that. So these are all different types of matter that we don't truly understand. Plasma is just another stage of matter, right? Like and people for people that don't understand plasma out there, it's not I'm not talking about the plasma in our bodies. I'm talking about cosmic plasma, space plasma. All suns and stars are planet plasma. 99.9% of the mass of the universe is plasma. It's interconnecting everything. It's when you see a big nebula, that's millions of light years of plasma, right? All suns and stars are plasma. And plasma is like where you superheat gas, where it's stripping the electrons off it to form an exotic new form of matter. That's plasma. It's sentient. It's alive, right? It's a form of life, just like we are, right? And it's very advanced. And I think that it's also connected to creating and manifestation, right? It's all plasma can form and create life through thought and manifestation, through frequency and vibration, right? And lightning, it's an electrical and magnetic force, right? And it goes by different electrical and magnetic properties. And the Vedic seers, they saw them as being demons and gods, right? Right. But the Rig Veda, they have three different types of lightning. And there's lightning that brings like no rain or very little rain, and it's associated with the demon Vitra. And Vitra is that lightning that the solar lightning that it pulls in the magnetotail that I talked about, right? And that doesn't bring too much rain. It brings like auroras and things like that, right? And then there's one lightning that and then that lightning usually is followed by like a downpour that's connected with Indra, right? And that's like a cosmic downpour, and that has Indra releasing the lightnings of auroras, right? So that's the one type of lightning. And then there's the the evil lightning that kills people and causes destruction, and it's attributed to the Rudra, the Howler, right? And he's one of the eight forms of Shiva, right? He comes as one of the forms of Shiva, and then Shiva, Rudra comes, becomes Shiva later on and more in Hindu. Shiva sort of takes Rudra turns into Shiva, like they take different names but he's a solar storm god. He's called Rudra the Terrible, right? And he can bring wildfires. He can bring fire from the skies, right? And he does it with his sound. He's the howler, right? Yama too. Yama's the same way. Yama's a solar deity that brings death. And these solar deities always wear their golden rings, and the Maruts always wear their golden rings. They're talking about the golden rings coming from the sun, the plasma storms, coronal mass ejection rings, the loops, right? This is why you even have Zoroaster holding a golden ring. I could pull the stuff up for you if you want to see pictures of it as well. But Rudra's the bull. He's the bull of the sun, and he's being in the mythologies and in the stories, they portray him as a father of a group of solar storm beings called the Maruts, and they're born from the laughter of the lightning, how they put it. Think about that. They're solar deities that's born from the sound, the laughter of the lightning. How incredible is that imagery? These Maruts, these ancient solar beings that they're born from a storm god and they're born from the laughter of the lightning. Incredible, right? And
Yeah.
they're also known as the Rudras, right? The Rudyas. They're sons of Rudra. And they're companions of Indra while he's in battle against the demons, right? So it's really incredible, right? And they talk who and they're how do they describe them? Oh, they wear ornaments of gold rings, right? And Rudra is a solar storm god who sends the golden rings from the sun, right? That's incredible, dude. Incredible imagery, and it's mind blowing that see they didn't have the solar orbiter, and all these technologies that we have to see what's going on in the sun. They were seers that had telepathic images and they could see millions of miles with their sight, with their inner sight. I mean, we're talking about when they went to war, these priest clans, they went to war with mantras that can shake the foundations of jungles and forests. Telepathic warfare, right? Highly powerful mantras and hymns that can kill people, that can like literally bring down fire from the sky too, as well. And Rudra, he's looked at as the crier as well. He brings the tears of the sun, right? There's one of the famous stories where he's the son of Ushas. Ushas is the goddess of the dawn, right? This is very powerful information here. She's the goddess of the dawn, and her and Prajapati, which is the creation god, they give life to Rudra. So the dawn is where, the very powerful time when the sunstorm comes, right? The sunstorm, right? And he brings the weeping of the sun, right? So it's really incredible. Like I said, when you see the Naga and those golden the hooded cobra, those represent those ankhs. Those represent those coronal loops, those coronal mass ejections, and it's twisting nagas in the sigils and all the different things. Those are twisting magnetic field lines, right? It all has to do with knowledge coming from the cosmic waters, knowledge coming from the sun, right? And a lot of the stories, they get transferred into like people, right? So they remember them, so people could remember them and pass them on through like oral traditions. But we've lost the true meanings and they're being reawakened now. I'm an ancestral scribe that's coming back, right? There's many of us here now that are reawakening, and I'm one of those ancestral scribes that's reawakening. And it's taken me years to find my path, right? And I was trying to figure stuff out, thumbing through a lot of books through my whole life. And then the universe spoke to me. The sun literally handed me down a coronal loop, like an ankh, like the hand of the sun came down at a red granite site, at a special dolmen that I go to every winter solstice. And I had a spiritual moment where the sun showed me, the sun showed me like the arm of Akhenaten, that hand that comes down holding the coronal loop, right? It showed me that. And that's the same vision of Akhenaten when you literally have a coronal loop being handed down from the arm of the sun. And I had this revelation as the golden noose of the gods being the Pasha of Hindu, and the Ankh of Egyptian. And it led me to finding some other people's work where they're talking about bacteriophages and ancient Egyptian, and things just started being revealed to me that I've been wondering about for 30 years, right? That I've been talking about and thinking and staring at for many decades, right? I have ancient Egyptian papyruses from the Cairo Museum that I've had since I'm a kid, that I've been looking at for, almost 40 years. I'm 46 years old. I've had it for almost 40 years, some of them. And I've been looking at it my whole life. It wasn't until the last few years where I started getting revelations about what they really meant. Right? And it wasn't because I was a scholar. I am a scholar, but that wasn't the reason why I was given the answers. Right? You have people writing about mythology for hundreds of years. They've been wondering what these symbols and stories meant. Now I'm letting you know that I'm starting to come at the cusp to being to reveal these once again to help humanity find their way. Because we have all the answers we're seeking for already written for us in the holy books. Why do you think they've lasted so long and people have gone through so trouble etching them in pottery and in stone so they survive? We have the answers we're looking for, Don. We just got to reawake this knowledge within us.
Yeah. I just kind of wrote myself a note so I wouldn't forget. Um, when you were explaining what some of the mantras and old abilities used to be, I'm sitting here looking at what we were describing earlier would be the general public that's all about self. There's probably a damn good reason a lot why your basic human doesn't have these abilities anymore, because this place would be a worse shit show than ever if average Joe got the ability to call down thunder. Like, basic mankind could not understand these things and use them productively.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like when I the way I'm telepathic, it's has to do with the light. And I'll give you guys a little tip of how I tap into things when I do when I'm going internally or connecting to self, if you want to say. So like we all when it's better when you close your eyes, but we all have when we close our eyes, you get it's darkness, but there should be an overlay of light that comes in, like a tint, a reddish tint or whatever, right? It happens when you light is seeping through the lids of your eyes. You see an overlay of light. Well, if you go outside and either the moonlight, you look towards the moonlight, look towards the sun for a moment. Not direct, you don't have to look directly at it, but just look up towards the sky and then close your eyes. You'll see the overlay of the light seeping in. It should be like a reddish, for me, it's like a reddish, like neon, like almost like a holographic. I call it electric fire. It's almost like an electric fire, holographic electric fire. And it should be the light that's coming in. If you focus on that light, and everything else just disappears. It's just that light, and you absorb it and you focus on it and meditate on it, and that light becomes like a screen. Well, that light will eventually start speaking to you, and it's a knowing that comes along with imagery. It's almost like at first you're playing a form of psychic charades where you can see a face will be outlined in that light, in that reddish electric fire. You'll see maybe a face, an outline of a face. And the face, you could be looking in the center, in the eyes of that face. And the face could even be moving its mouth and have expressions, but you don't hear anything or see, or like you just see them talking and moving. And it's like playing charades kind of until it starts getting more clearer. And then a knowing comes along with the expressions, and the knowing starts to come along with some of the symbols. Sometimes you'll have a little movie that plays out in front of you, like a little telepathic movie. Sometimes it'll be some symbolism, and you'll see it's universal symbolism that also has to do with a lot of the old tarot symbolism and different symbolisms that we have universal symbols out there. Well, Vedic and Sanskrit is that symbolism in mantra form and in hymn form. It's a universal symbolism. It's the primal sounds of nature and the universe. And we get that same telepathic sound of the light in our minds. We just have to connect to the light. So there could be times, dude, I've played with it before and realized that I've won the lotto that way. And I realized that it was bad. After I did that, like I had bad things happen in my life. Like a lot of times. Whenever you try to do things like that for financial gain and for materialistic gain, you're gonna have a lot of bad things happen with that money when you get it. Trust me. Trust me. Right? So like I only do it now for the good of myself, like in the collective. Like if I have to help a situation, or if someone's in need, or if I'm looking for wisdom about the good of everything, or if I'm looking, like most of my research has to do with the path of souls, the transmigration of souls, and us evolving after death and moving on after death. I feel that's part of my mission here because I've gone through near death experience like yourself, and I had an experience where it left me wondering and sending me down this over 30 years of research now, because I couldn't understand what I witnessed and where I was when I was in that in between state. And what I realized
Yeah.
was I was in the region of the magnetosphere and I was in a vortex of plasma. And my soul was being analyzed, and in one fluid state, my soul was being weighed and scanned and judged and analyzed. And I realized that there's a place that we need to get past the light of this physical reality. All the light that we've absorbed that has to do with feelings and emotions and people that we've met and loved ones, all of that life, we have to go past that, right? That's just directing you off of your spiritual course. If you're looking to ascend higher than earth, then you gotta move past all of that guilt, all of that ego. That needs to be just sledgehammered, destroyed. You don't have to heal all that. You can just let it
Yeah.
go and move on, right? But unfortunately, we're stuck and right away, the first light that we see, we get deceived by it. We take that route. And it might put us in a simulation where we're just sitting there in purgatory for 1,000 years, hanging out with a simulated experience of our parents and our cousins and our loved ones. Who wants to be with all those people forever, though?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I love my mom, but like, you're gonna sit there eternally now, just hanging out?
No.
That don't sound right.
No.
That don't sound right.
Um, you and I actually have almost the identical. I tend to do it sitting on my bed, but we almost have the identical meditation practice. The only thing I do differently is I try, and it's something I got off of Clark Cagley on YouTube, was I try to focus on where my third eye is. But other than that, pretty much verbatim what you said is what I use as a meditation practice.
Well, I use song too a lot. Like, I'll play music after I meditate with the sun, like with my acoustic guitar, and I'll just play and sing sometimes, and I'll get things out. But usually, like with the light, it's very interesting because the sun will show me different alignments. Like, after I look up at the sun, if I close my eyes, the sun will show me different alignments that the sun's happening with other stars right now, and it'll show me like sort of like a two-dimensional type of diagram thing. Like, I'll get it a lot and I'll sketch them out, and when I look up the alignments, it aligns with certain planets and different things that's going on right now. So like, I get connected to the alignments and everything that's happening right now my own way. So I don't really follow the typical astrology, but like mine, like, I have this like inner connection to the like the cosmos, where it'll even wake me up and I'll go outside and I'll be like, oh my God, like the Mars Jupiter conjunction, like I'm just connected to certain alignments, and I just find them naturally without being aware of them.
What I love about listening to you explain all of the light sources and how they connect is you and I are the same age, so you might even remember this when they were first explaining to us what the internet was supposed to be. That's exactly what it sounds like you're describing, is all of these points of information and light and knowledge that go out throughout the universe. That's what we were told when our generation was introduced to the internet. That was what it was supposed to be. And why I bring this up is because in this reality, there's always a fake version of the real thing, right? So our fake version of the information superhighway, which is actually above us, like you're explaining, is the internet. We're given a fake dummy version just to soothe us enough to be able to go, yeah, this is the best thing ever. Well, it's not, because there's even more information out in the universe.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible, dude. It's incredible. Yeah, we're living the celestial ocean. That to me is the Akashic records. And as we
Yeah.
as we think and manifest things, different particles within the plasma sea start to excite and attract one another, and the more powerful the manifestation and the thought, then the more powerful the force is that starts to manifest and create, you know?
Yeah. No, I really do believe that's what's going on.
Like, we should
Um,
definitely go through, like, if like once a month, if we're gonna come on, we should definitely like do translations of ancient writings that a lot of people don't talk about. Like, one of them is
I,
the Gilgamesh and the Hula Tree. A lot of people don't know about that story. and it has to do with, in my opinion, solar storms with Enki and Enlil, and the magnetosphere, and a storm coming to the planet. And it's very interesting because they talk about it as a weeping willow tree, the magnetosphere, and there's a lot of symbolism in ancient writings from the Garden of Eden, the Tree of Knowledge and Wisdom, where they describe the magnetic shield. And if you look at the magnetic shield around the planet, it's like, when we look at it as the two-dimensional view, it's like a sideways weeping willow tree or tree, right? The bulbous head and the magnetic field line swaying are the tree branches. It looks like a sideways tree. It really does look like a weeping
Yeah.
willow tree. And they describe it. It can even be called the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, right? All the ancient places of the past, like you know, they knew the locations, but nobody knew the actual locations of the Hanging Towers, Hanging Gardens of Babylon. That's because I don't think they were on Earth. They were around Earth. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon is the waters around Earth, right? And yeah, they have a very interesting story called Gilgamesh and the Hulupu tree. And it starts off right away at the beginning of the story. They talk about heaven and earth being separated, right? And so you're talking about the magnetosphere. That's the separation between heaven. When they're saying the waters above and below in the firmament, they're talking about the waters of right, the cosmic waters in the magnetosphere, right? That's the waters above and below, right? And it's separating the waters. It literally is separating the waters. And that's the firmament all there. So um they talk about the south wind. See, a lot of people are translating the Gilgamesh and the Hulapu tree story as being the Euphrates River on Earth. And I think they called the Euphrates River after its cosmic origins, just like the Nile River was named after its cosmic counterpart. Same thing with the Ganges River, right? There's a famous story of the Ganges River being called down from the cosmos, right? And it was brought down from the cosmos in a story. So I mean, we could even get into that because that's an interesting story as well. But
Well, we've been going almost 2 hours now. Do you want to book that for 2 weeks? I know we were talking about once a month, but if you're cool with coming back, I'd love to
yeah,
share some of
we could
this
do it
because
2 weeks from now. We should. Yeah, the Ganges, dude. The Ganges River is, there's a famous story in the Puranas about that. And that's very interesting as well. They had to like uh dig a hole to release the waters. I think they're talking about literally a sunspot to release the plasma storm coming from the sun. And this brought down the heavenly Ganges and filled the Bay of Bengal up, right? And so they're literally talking about like a solar horse in the story, the Sagara. It's a solar horse. And they have to dig the ocean and bring down the heavenly Ganges in the story. It's pretty intense.
that's yeah, we should set that up for 2 weeks from now because yeah, I want to hear that whole thing in length because this is part of the reason I love talking to you is like I always end up learning something or being able to wrap my head around something in a different way.
And
And I
here, dude,
really hope that's
I
what the
have the
audio.
actual, yeah, dude, no doubt. I have the actual translation too that we could do, the Gilgamesh and the Hula Tree. We could go over that
That
translation Sumerian. I have the Sumerian and the English translation. And then there's also another rare prophecy that I would like to go over next time too, if we can. This is a
yeah,
rare book. Most people don't have this book. I've done it on my Patreon. This is called The Oracle of Baalbek.
yeah.
Um, the prophecy of the 10th Sibyl. This is the Tiberine Sibyl. And they talk about where, like, how many was it? 100 people? The prophecy? There's like 99 or 100 people that have this dream the same night about all these different suns that show up in the sky, like 9 different suns, and one's like flaming red, one's a different color. So they take those dreams and they go to the Sibyl. The Sibyls are like these prophetesses that they sit on sacred spots. Like one Sibyl would sit on the Oracle of Baalbek. There was some that sit on the famous one of Cumaea, the Sibyl of Cumae, right? There was all these different. One sat at Delphi in Greece, right? And even Delphi, that's named after the dolphin of the sun, right? The dolphins of Apollo. So this is all about streams of plasma coming from the sun and receiving the light. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll get into all this.
I love it. Translating ancient texts with Raw. This is gonna be fucking dope.
Dude, we should start our own show like every 2 weeks. Have
Yeah,
our own show doing that.
yeah. Spinja's finger just came. She's laying here having a nap, and all of a sudden her finger just comes up like out of nowhere. Do you have something to say, or are you agreeing? Oh, she already said this. She actually did
No
about a
doubt.
couple of days ago.
All right. So, dude, thank you, everybody. You can find me at the mysticalspiralstore.com,
Yeah.
mysticalspiral.com, patreon.com/the mystical spiral, and the Space Water podcast on YouTube. You can find me at Exploring the Ka. Thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. And spiral out.
Thanks, man.
No doubt, brother.